We are all mad here. We are all mad here. And yet we can create calm with the Mad Hatter. Good Monday morning. This is Ann White, and this is Creating Calm with the Mad Hatter, and this is my Mad Hatter's hat that I start the show with, because the world is a crazy place. Sometimes it's a scary place, sometimes it's a wild place, but we have within us the power to create calm. Let me switch hats so I can tell you about today's topic. This was the best hat I could find to do it. This is a Confederate military hat. And the reason I picked this hat is because once my mother got to know me, which was early on, obviously, since she was my mother, she wanted to call me Scarlet because it was be after Scarlett O'Hara. I can do it tomorrow. And I used to always want to do it tomorrow. And the quote from Margaret Mitchell in Gone with the Wind is, "I'll think about it tomorrow at Tara. I can stand it then. Tomorrow I'll think of some way to get back at him. After all, tomorrow is another day." And I am the ultimate procrastinator. I love to procrastinate. It's a fine art. So this program really is not about how to not be a procrastinator, because I think I'm always going to be one. I aspire to that. It works better for me. But I want to give you some ideas on how to live successfully as a procrastinator. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. How to live successfully as a procrastinator. And sorry about my hair. I was procrastinating for this program. Where's this one? With the cameras you can't quite see. And I just about didn't make it. I was going to procrastinate and do this program tomorrow, but I thought, it's scheduled, so let's get the party started. Sometimes procrastination is a good thing. For example, I used to be a divorce attorney, and I would, especially Monday mornings, I would get all of these panic phone calls, so-and-so did that, they did this, they did, big trauma, emotional upheaval. Yet, if I were to call them right back, I would have been in the middle of this mudstorm. So, with those calls, I oftentimes would procrastinate and call them back end of Monday, sometimes first thing Tuesday morning, and you know what? Everything kind of evened out. And the big hoo-ha was just a little hoo-ha, and it had passed. As a trauma chaplain, there are some deaths I know when they happen are going to be, the reaction is going to be explosive. And when I know that, I will walk slower when I am paged to get there after the explosion of emotion, when they can't even hear me anyway, when I can't even do my ministry. The most I can do is hand vomit buckets and towels and Kleenex, and really it's hard to start settling in with the grief and mourning when it's explosive. So there I procrastinate just a little bit so that I can start doing the ministry that I'm trained for a few minutes after the news has hit. Now, it's a fine line, because there are times you need to keep your antenna up, knowing that if you're there ahead of what happens, you can prevent the explosion. So you have to kind of keep your ear to the ground and know when you need to be there ahead of time and when it's better just to step back and show up or make the call a little bit later. So know that there are times when procrastination is good. Sometimes problems will solve themselves without you if you use a little procrastination. One of the things too about procrastination is it sometimes gives you a clean house when you've got a project. So for people who are studying for the big test, I remember as an attorney I took 3 different bar exams, one in Illinois, one in Connecticut, and one in Florida. And when I should have been studying, I had the cleanest house in the entire world, because I would try to get my house clean before I would study. So I'm sure some of you students can identify with that. Also, writers can. Before we sit down to write, the challenging chapter. You know, we want to make sure everything is clean. So one of the benefits of procrastination is it sometimes gives you a clean house, unless that's the thing you're procrastinating, and then, oh well, it doesn't work. I found a quote by Bill Watterson, and I think he's the Calvin and Hobbes guy, but I'm not sure. But I like this quote. You can't just turn on creativity like a faucet. You have to be in the right mood. What mood is that? Last minute panic. And that's what works for me, last minute panic. I do very good work in last minute panic. That's sort of where I get my groove on. So, what can we do to survive in a world when we love to be procrastinators? So here's a few tips that I've put together to share with you. Some jobs are just overwhelming. And when we find we're putting off an overwhelming job, the best thing to do is to break it down into tiny pieces and then do one task at a time. And it's not so overwhelming. Like, you sit down to write the great American novel. Where do you start? So you break down what you're going to do to get that novel written. And you might even calendar it. I'm going to talk about calendar a little bit later. But what do you need? An outline first? Do you need some research done? So break it down into tiny parts. And that seems to be a help to me when I get overwhelmed, because sometimes I will just sit with a project and stir it, and then I realize, wait a minute, it's just a big project. I need to put it into pieces. And then by putting it into pieces, it becomes manageable. I use a timer. One reason I use a timer is because I have ADHD. I love it. It makes me very creative. It makes my world very interesting and sparkly. But it's hard to get projects done unless I force myself to use a timer. So if you are working on those overwhelming projects that you've broken down into tasks, or if you have to, say, clean up a messy office or pay bills or anything you don't like to do, set your timer for me, I use 15 minutes. I figure I can do anything in 15 minutes. So when I have a project that I've been putting off or a project I don't want to do, 15 minutes, I work on it. It's amazing what you can get done when you keep your focused for 15 minutes. And then the timer goes off. You can go wander around, play, whatever you want to do, get a cup of coffee, and then come back and do another 15-minute round. So it's a very good tip for projects that you're putting off. Another thing that I use, and especially now, because in founding and managing in the Creating Calm Network, I am like killer busy. I am talking about unbelievable busy. I can't even talk, that's how busy I am. So from the moment I wake up until the moment I leave for work to be a trauma chaplain, my day is scheduled. And I have found that I really rely on my calendar. So everything gets put on the calendar, and I'm very good about that. So each day I open my calendar and I do all of those things. Now here's the hint with the calendar. First of all, I recommend it if you're busy, because that way you know you don't have to think about it, you don't have to worry about it, you do what's in your calendar. Turn the page, you do that. But you don't want to be surprised and turn the page and say, term paper due that day. So when you break down a task that needs some preparation, calendar each step of the task so that you know today's the day I have to finish my outline. Then you turn to maybe the next week, today's the day that the first draft is due. So you don't want to be surprised. When I was an attorney, I had to really work a calendar too. And whenever I had a trial coming up, I would start with the trial and backdate all the way to the present, the different things that had to be done on certain days. Because if you just calendar trial and that day you turn your page and you're like in your pajamas and you see you've got a big trial coming up, it ain't gonna work. So work your calendar, but backdate the tasks that you need for something important. And I really love a calendar because I do live in the present. I live very much in the now. I don't want to think about stuff and try to remember stuff. So once I write it on my calendar, it no longer has to be in my mind. And then I put my calendar up. I usually look at it the day before just so I'm not really surprised. And then I live that day. Let that day unfold. And then I go on to the next day. It really is a good way to live without just worrying about the past and fretting about the future. It helps you really live in the now. Now, I don't know about you, but I have a lot of paper around, piles of paper. So first of all, I recommend this as a good filing system. Some people are going to go really nuts now. Here, let me put on my really nuts hat. I recommend this as a good filing system. So what I do is my file system is like an Indian tell to begin with. Piles and piles. It layers up, so I know that if it was a month ago, it's probably about here. 2 months ago is a little lower. So it's sort of done by time. And then I have a box that right now it's going to be a box that says 2013. Everything for 2013 goes in that box. And so it's month by month by month that piles up. You always know where it is, and you just have to know kind of what time it was, and it'll be there. Works for me, takes less time, and well, it just works for me and takes less time. So if you can live with that, I think that's cool. Now, every now and then, and now is one of these times, my desk is just messy. And I've just moved my office, so I have one more set of piles of stuff. It's small now. I mean, you can see I'm getting kind of, you can see there's not piles here. If you turned around, remember last week I had a few piles in my studio, which I've yet to learn how to use the camera because I am procrastinating. But I have about 5 piles, about that big, left to sort. My rule for myself when I'm doing paper, books, piles, those kind of things, is you touch each object only one time. And during that one time you have it, you can't put it in a different pile. You either have to put it in its proper place, you either have to throw it away, or if it should be filed or given to a friend, but it's cheating to then start putting from this pile to this pile, unless this pile is we're carrying it to the car for Goodwill. But so often, if you're like drowning under paper, like I oftentimes am, it's interesting to put piles and then you repile and you spend a whole lot of time piling up your stuff. So when you need to really spruce up and clear out piles of litter and important papers, handle each thing only once. Don't put it in another pile. It's got to be put in the proper place, filed, or thrown away or given away before you go on to that next piece. So I think, oh, I know, there's one other advice that I don't file. It's a real good piece of advice that I don't practice. It's a great piece of advice. I have yet to learn how to practice it. I will probably die before I ever practice it, but I think I would be remiss if I didn't share it with you. And that is eat the frog first. I don't know who said that. It sounds like it's a Seth Gordon kind of thing, but I'm not sure. Eat the frog first. And what that means is if you've got a task that's very important that you don't want to do, get it done first. Just get it done, get it over with, and then go on to your day. Makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? But, you know, for me, I still like to procrastinate, push it around. I love working under pressure. I'm an adrenaline junkie, so I'm not going to do that. But it is a piece of good advice, so I just felt I needed to share it. So that's it for today from Creating Calm Within Chaos. I'm Ann White, the founder of the Creating Calm Network, and I think I need a drink of water. My new bottle says Fred. Isn't that kind of weird? I bought it because it says Fred. It's still water. Marketing, you know. Maybe if it said Mabel, I would have bought it too. It just was kind of cute. So what I'd like you to do is go to www.creatingcalmnetwork.com. That's really where I'm trying to put all of our stuff. You will meet our hosts, our musicians. You'll see our programming, the kind of programs we are offering. You'll be able to watch television, this program right there. The current show will always be on top, and below each host will have their archived shows. There you can find the podcast link if you want to listen on podcast. And most importantly, please, 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 please sign up for the programming guide. It comes out every Sunday morning at dark 100. It'll be there when you wake up. And it not only gives our programs, but in trying to make it interesting, I give little shout outs, and I'm doing photos and just things that will brighten your day on a Sunday morning. It's all about having beauty and sparkle and brightness. So that's what I try to do there. So please sign up. I would love you to be a part of our growing network. We are looking for a few new hosts who might bring us things on holistic nutrition, raising healthy children, holistic pets, astrology. So if you know anybody who would be a great host, send them our way and we'll tell them about our hosting package. It's a great opportunity to get your message out. And we love listeners. So if you've liked this program or any of our programs, pass it on. Tell a friend. The more, the merrier. The more, the merrier. You know, sometimes maybe I need a stick or something so I can do a little soft shoe. Suppose my crystal wand. I have a crystal wand, but that's not quite a stick. Oh well. So much fun we can do. You know, and you also know that you're in my office now, so we can start working on your chakras. Just wait till I stop procrastinating and learn how to work the camera so we can use that set behind us with all of its bells and whistles and cool things. So that'll be a hoot. All sorts of things. Do you know that on Monday mornings from now on, Monday at 10 o'clock, Kimberly Burnham and I are going to be doing Live on the Air with Kim and Ann, part of Monday Morning Coffee, which has been revamped. And we are going to be chatting with you about things you want to chat about. So, bra strap, nope, that's the wrong one, see? At least it wasn't like who did the malfunction. I wouldn't call that a wardrobe malfunction. Anyway, whatever you want to talk about, no topic is off limits. And Kimberly and I think very differently. Kimberly has a PhD in integrative medicine, so normally she's thinking very highbrow. She's thinking how our brain and our body react to certain things. And I, with undiagnosed ADHD, am just popping in from outer space, so God knows how our conversations will go. But make sure you check on that, call in and be part of the discussion, because I think we can have all sorts of fun and change the world one program at a time. So now, enough babbling, enough play. I am going on to the rest of my week. I hope you do too. I'm going to get my bangs cut maybe by the next time you see me. And we will be back with another show of Creating Calm with the Mad Hatter. Thank you so much for playing with me today. It's just been fun. And go ahead and procrastinate whatever you have on your list. I think it's a good plan. Take care. Bye-bye.